Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve, myself, Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud, apparently with the hiccups.
And we are back today talking about San Diego Comic-Con, along with getting caught up on some news and rumors. Looks like we're good to go everywhere. Sorry for those trying to watch on the page. We were still trying to get the followers up. And X made a change too, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, to where you have to have a pro account or a paid account now to be able to live stream. So we are not on there for now, maybe in the future, but we are still on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and Trovo. And then, of course, we'll always have the audio wherever you listen to your podcast, so you can catch us there. So Comic-Con, big weekend. Marvel had two panels. They have a dedicated Deadpool and Wolverine panel, which we won't go into, but we will have our Deadpool and Wolverine review on Sunday, hopefully, with Andy Steed making a comeback. So we'll talk about that then, but we'll skip on to the other Marvel panel. So the main one on Saturday. So they came back to Hall H, had a big panel. Kevin Feige came out and said that they just crossed $30 billion at the box office, which is crazy, was what he said. So yeah, so the MCU over $30 billion now, and Deadpool and Wolverine got them over the finish line. And it looks like Deadpool and Wolverine will be getting $1 billion worldwide here sooner than later. I think they're already about to cross 500 million worldwide. So
it's crazy too, because it's like through Monday, I think they were already about to cross 500 million or something like that. You know, I think they were over 450 million. So it's crazy that, I mean, just to think about that, I mean, not only is that a huge accomplishment, but, you know, in comparison to like other movies, this Deadpool movie just at the box office alone, it's not the same as Spider-Man No Way Home, but I mean, it's like, you know, 40-50 million shy of that movie. So, you know, at opening, and that's pretty crazy. I mean, you know, Spider-Man's obviously one of the world's most popular characters, but for Deadpool and Wolverine, there was a lot of excitement. I bet you that movie will end up doing $1.5 billion or something, you know?
Well, it broke the record for a rated R movie already for its opening weekend. So yeah, it's doing pretty good. But let's digress from that, because we are still in the spoiler ban for our group. So on Sunday, we should have the review going for that. So the first thing up, three movies were talked about. Hold on. Let me go back here. Thunderbolts, Brave New World. Three movies talked about. Sorry, I gotta look at my notes real quick. The first one up was Brave New World. So Kevin Feige said that it's a return to the grounded aspects of the Winter Soldier. He also says the Winter Soldier was a big inspiration for it. He's more of a thoughtful and cerebral character versus the strength that comes with the superpowers, talking about Captain America. But the big announcement here with this movie is we finally found out who Giancarlo Esposito is playing. He is the king of the Serpent Society. He is Seth Volker. He is Sidewinder. So that is interesting. So it's funny too, because I remember when we first had the second Captain America movie, I think, before it became before Civil War came out. It was the third Captain America movie, where it was supposed to be Serpent Society originally when they announced it at Comic-Con, and now, you know, the fourth Captain America movie, the debut of Sam Wilson as Captain America on the big screen, and we are getting the Serpent Society. So a little full circle there.
About time, you know. I think people have been wanting that movie. I mean, like you said, it was probably since Civil War that they've been discussing that, but I know fans have wanted them since the Winter Soldier, at least, you know. So about time, and that'll be pretty interesting. I'm curious to see if we see more members of the Serpent Society in that movie, or if it's just going to be just him and it's like a slow introduction. Didn't they say something at some point about like there would be a TV show associated with his character or something like that at some point?
Possibly. I know the original stuff, it was supposed to be heavy Serpent Society before all the reshoots happened. So I'm interested to see where it's going now, and hopefully they do more, because to bring someone like Giancarlo Esposito in, you don't
Mhm.
want to have him as a one-off, a one and done type of character.
Yeah.
Tim Blake Nelson, who also plays the leader, teased how they written a great story for him. It's been 16 years. Tell us about him now. I can't say much. No spoilers. I want them to bring me back. He said, I didn't have a movie. I responded, oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong thing there. So that was Tim Blake Nelson as return. And then Tom Holland and Anthony Mackie have some banter back and forth. And now that Anthony Mackie finally has his solo film, he's been going back at Tom Holland, and he said basically, Tom Holland said, oh, Anthony Mackie says, he said, I didn't have a movie. I responded, well, you're not 5'11". I have a movie, but you're still not 5'11". Yes, Tom Holland, explicative you,
Mhm.
basically. And then he goes, yeah, Tom Holland, explicative you, about getting and following his own movie. So that little banter's back and forth. And I saw some stuff today where he's telling that Zendaya has to find someone else to go with because he's taking Tom Holland to the premiere with them. So that's
I think
funny.
I think it's really funny too, because I feel like this kind of goes back to, it was some years ago where they were kind of having a little banter in like a chat on stage somewhere. I don't remember exactly. Maybe it was Comic-Con or not. But Tom Holland said to Anthony Mackie, "Have you seen the Spider-Man movie?" And he said, "No, of course I haven't," or something like that. And he was like, "Oh, well, I haven't seen the Falcon." And it made a joke about there
Yep.
not being a Falcon movie. So it was one of those funny things. So I feel like this is just a little bit of a rivalry. I know a lot of people like to think that Anthony Mackie kind of low-key is not the biggest fan of Tom Holland, but I think it's just friendly
Yeah.
rivalry, to be honest. So
So we also got footage too of Brave New World. There is no trailer out yet. I'm sorry, there's no new trailer out with no new footage, which we've already seen a trailer. So I
Mhm.
expect a new trailer probably at D23. Also notice too, Marvel did not talk about any of the shows. Now remember too, Marvel split to 3 divisions. So we have the movie division, the
Mhm.
TV, and the animation. So D23 is next month or in September. I can't remember, but I
Mhm.
expect us to get stuff on shows then. But in the meantime, we got some new footage. Well, we didn't, but the people that were at Comic Con got some new footage. So basically, it did confirm that Adamantium is officially in the MCU now. Basically, the video description was Harrison Ford invites world leaders to the White House and says that the celestial mass allowed him to create adamantium. So there you go. Team up from Eternals, will he turn in Captain America Brave New World and be the source of adamantium in the MCU, which Alex, you called that like months ago. I think when we did the Eternals review, we were talking about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of hoping that, they would kind of be, Adamantium would be kind of connected to Cersei and be like, hey, this is a new material that she created, because her powers were matter and
Mm-hmm.
she could basically transform matter. So I was kind of hoping that they would do that. I don't know if they'll actually go all that deep. I mean, it sounds like they're definitely going to go that, it has adamantium, but maybe it was there before, that it's just all Celestials have it. Maybe it's one of those things that Cersei made it, but I hope that they do that just to make that Eternals movie a little bit more relevant in the
Yep.
MCU. I mean, obviously we're going to see, Tiamat now, the giant celestial sticking out of the earth, but until now, what have we seen? She-Hulk, I think, is the only other thing that it's really referenced that. So it's about time, because I mean that thing is huge. So
Yep. Yeah, and look at the trailer too, because they have that whole base. It looks like the whole fight scene in the trailer too. Other footage shown: Harrison Ford playing Thaddeus Ross, turns into the Red Hulk right in front of the White House while giving a speech. So basically, at the podium at the White House, we have Red Hulk. Harrison Ford had to say, I am Thaddeus, and I am proud to become a member of the Marvel Universe. I think this film turned out to be fantastic, marvelous, even. So he has high praises to say for that. So it does sound pretty cool about Brave New World. It looks like he's going to out himself. It'll be interesting to see where he goes going forward. Now, I have my other notes I pulled up for some more news since I had this planned with this. Another thing that came out today about Brave New World. So Anthony Mackie, via Entertainment Weekly, implies that the Hulk will appear in Captain America: Brave New World. He says the events of Hulk in his film don't pertain to this movie at all, but when he shows up, his world, his universe, his story is completely separate from the way we utilize him in our story. So it almost sounds like we might get multiple Hulks. So won't be surprising if we get She-Hulk in this movie, if we get Scar in this movie, along with what else has
Abomination.
Abomination,
Hmm.
along with what else has the leader been up to and working with the Gamma stuff. Because remember, last time we saw him, he was taking samples of Banner, and that's
Hmm.
how they turned Zelensky. Zelensky, right? Was his name?
Blonsky.
Blonsky. Oh, never mind. Yeah, Blonsky into the Abomination by using the transfusion stuff that he got from the Hulk's blood, or Banner's blood. So he might have created some more Gamma creatures, possibly.
Hmm.
So that'll be interesting to see.
I feel like in a movie where obviously Steve Rogers was a super soldier, Thunderbolts will kind of go, I think, more into the super soldier route, but then Sam's going to be kind of challenged with, can you be Captain America without the super soldier serum? I think in this movie, I think Abomination, I would almost make it a bet that I believe that he's got to be at least referenced in this movie, since he took the super soldier serum and took the Gamma, and turned into Abomination. So I mean, I feel like it's a nice mix of both worlds there for that. So we know we'll see the leader, we know we'll see Red Hulk. So really curious to see. Hopefully they do a lot with the Red Hulk in this movie.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things where obviously it sounds like we'll know, and everybody in the universe will know, that Ross is Red Hulk. But I'll be interested to see. I feel like the leader is going to be tied to that, and he's probably going to have done something with Abomination, like maybe based what he did to, say, Ross, based off of maybe just Abomination, since he was in captivity for all that time, being in jail and everything like that. So
You also wonder too, was the leader also at the raft as well?
Mhm.
We just don't know it yet until it got out. So that'll be interesting too as well.
Mhm.
Moving on to Thunderbolts. The cast and director were on stage at Comic-Con. David Harbour was wearing his Red Guardian costume at the event. He was in full costume and accent, so doing his Russian accent, and comes in yelling at the cast for not dressing up. So the Weird Asterisk and Thunderbolts title, Kevin Feige still refuses to disclose what the hell it means.
Mhm.
He did clarify that the Thunderbolts group in this movie is not named after Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross.
Mhm.
It's also been reported that the reveal of the asterisks will be saved for the movie. So it almost sounds like this is gonna be a mission, possibly turn into like Thunderbolts Dark Avengers. I think Val's up to stuff too as well. So interesting to see that we might get more Thunderbolts movies going down the line.
Mhm.
And I wonder if they're gonna turn Val into a Norman Osborn type character going forward as well, since they don't have the full rights to him being
Mhm.
part of the Sony rights and so forth. So
Yeah, I'll be really curious to see what they do with that character. I've always loved Julia Louis-Dreyfus since Seinfeld. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan, so when I first
Doctor and
saw
Veep
her,
also, yeah.
yeah,
You ever
I
watch
haven't
Veep?
watched that. I have not. I need to, because I love that kind of stuff. I'm such a House of Cards nerd. I love that show, and I'm not saying that's similar at all because I haven't seen that, but I love all those kind of types of shows like that. But yeah, she's a great actress, and I was really surprised when I first saw her pop up in the MCU with Yelena, and then again with John Walker.
Yep.
So it seems like I think that for her kind of moving forward, with the Thunderbolts, I feel like she's going to probably have a lot of screen time in this movie, more than she's already had, because they've kind of introduced her a couple of times and kind of laid the foundation for her. So we're still going to get the Sentry, right?
Yeah, but I agree. You're correct. I think Florence Pugh, Yelena
Mm-hmm.
is gonna be the star of the movie, the central figure. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll go through here because they also got a quote of her about the team dynamics. She goes, "That's the joy of watching them together, is that they don't play well together."
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian Stan said when asked what makes the Thunderbolts movie special, he points at Florence Pugh, saying this one right here. So there you
Mm-hmm.
go. Ghost is confirmed. and Hannah John Kamen was on stage. She said, where we left Ava and where we find Ava and how she works with others is going to be interesting. Wyatt Russell on U.S. Agent in the movie says everyone's going to explicative love me. So there you go. Julie Louise-Dreyfus on Valentina. Valentina is after power control, and I would say generally she wants to kick ass in the Marvel universe. Sebastian Stan teases an expiration date on his time as Bucky. He jokes that how long he's played Bucky, comparing it to a cat's 9 lives. Says how many are left. Also, too, one more thing real quick. Wyatt Russell basically revealed that Sebastian Stan's Bucky Barnes is a congressman in Thunderbolts, saying he uses a lot less water. He's a congressman. So
I feel like, obviously going back to what I was going to say about the Sentry, I feel like this whole movie is going to be a setup where they're being sent to go after the Sentry, and then the Sentry is just going to run through them, basically. But I think with the expiration date on Bucky, I really think, and I've said it before on podcasts, but I would love to see the Sentry just rip his arm off and crush it. Like, I think that would be, that would be funny. But I have a very good feeling, I think, about like Yelena and Bucky are going to be kind of like almost the center two of the team for the most part, and they're going to have a very Black Widow and Captain America kind of relationship where they're going to be, kind of close. They're going to end up really close. And I have a feeling Bucky's going to probably die trying to protect her or something like that.
I can see that, yeah.
And that might be where, that expiration date kind of is coming kind of soon for him. So,
as far as Sentry, Lewis Pullman plays coy about who he's playing in Thunderbolts, but emphasizes the name Bob. They did show some footage, so they did have the first trailer for Thunderbolts shown to the audience. It has not been released yet, but the footage shown appeared to have a scene with them in Avengers Tower with Val. So it does sound like Val may have something to do with the purchase of the Avengers Tower. Yelena visits Red Guardian's apartment, calls him dad, so that she has found that the only reason for her to live is killing others. The Ghost gets a new costume. All Thunderbolts are individually assigned the same job, but it's a setup. So it almost sounds like they're seeing, it almost sounds like with Bob Reynolds in Sentry that maybe they're trying to do another super soldier experiment, possibly Val, that goes wrong. And then she goes probably to each and every one of them to go after him with some kind of story, similar to the story that she used with Yelena at the end of Black Widow to go after Hawkeye.
Yeah, and I got a bad feeling that she's gonna be like, oh, it's just a rogue super soldier, so I'm gonna assemble all these super soldiers to go after him, and then it's really just like a trial run of, how quickly does it take him to dismantle this group of people, kind of type of deal. And who knows, maybe he's like sitting in stasis or something. Like, I know originally, like, Robert Reynolds is basically like he wanders in and basically like gets that and takes that. That drug that's like a super soldier serum. It's got like the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns or whatever they say. I feel like they'll probably do it a little bit differently here, where he'll probably have been engineered almost based off of what they know and the DNA and things of all the other super soldiers, just to make it optimized almost, so.
Other description of the footage shown in the room was cool and tense, showed them fighting each other, coming together, Bob and rolling up to Valentina. So it almost sounds like they're fighting each other, they're coming together, they fight Bob. I'm not sure what this means by and Bob, and then rolling up to Valentina. So it almost sounds like they're going to possibly go after Valentina and Bob at the end, or Bob's going to join them. I don't know. So we'll see.
Maybe it's an Adam Warlock like situation where he joined the Guardians at the end, and maybe it's very similar to that. I feel like, probably at least I have a very bad feeling Bucky's going to die, but I also think Red Guardian's going to die in this, and that's those two deaths I think will pull everybody together.
Yeah, I think
a little bit. So.
So Geraldine Viswanathan, so in her character, she's going to be Val's assistant, been described. But if you look at the footage from San Diego Comic-Con, they're putting their character names on the actors when they were interviewing them. Her name is confirmed to be Mel.
Okay.
So that makes me want to think there's a very famous person on the Thunderbolts that everyone wanted that goes by Mel, whose full name is Melissa Gold. Yes. So could Mel be short for Melissa? And is she going to be Melissa Gold? Now, this, I don't know if she'll already have be Songbird or if somehow she becomes Songbird by the end of this film. But it almost sounds like they're setting the stage because she's supposed to be Val's assistant, nicknamed Mel, which also Songbirds went by Mel. Melissa Gold went by the nickname Mel as well in the comics. So they could be trying to set up Songbird as well. We'll have to wait and see. An official synopsis has been released. Marvel Studios and crew of indie veterans who definitely sold out present Thunderbolts, an irrelevant team-up featuring depressed assassin Yelena Belova alongside the MCU's least anticipated band of misfits. So,
interesting.
Yep. Next up was Fantastic Four, which they did show some footage, some pre-shoot material. The entire cast was on stage as well. They went basically from Comic-Con in San Diego directly to, I believe, London is where they're filming to start shooting this week. Like there's already set photos out there as well.
Okay.
But basically it teased the Future Foundation. It's described as a set in the retro future of the 60s. Pre-shoot material was shown that was shot in 4:3 aspect. Pedro Pascal has an old school accent as Reed Richards, teaching a science class. The movie got a new title too. So up until now, it was just called Fantastic Four. Now it's called Fantastic Four First Steps, revealed by Kevin Feige. He also says it will stay true to the comics. Now, what's interesting about that is that this could be talking about their kids. You know, this could be talking about, you know, their first steps as heroes. Because it sounds like in this movie they're already going to have their powers.
In relation to the kids, that's what it instantly makes me think of is like baby's first steps, right?
Yep.
So like I'm not a big fan of the title. You know, they could have I think stuck with a similar title and they could have done like Fantastic Four, the First Family or something like that. I love that title. And then, you know, I hate to say this, but like they did with the, you know, Spider-Man movies where home was kind of the root of all the subtitles. They could have left family as like, you know, and kind of done that, I think, with if they did like a trilogy for the Fantastic Four. But yeah, I'm really curious. It seems like at this point to me that we probably won't see the kids right away. You know, but is there any news on that or
not really? But we'll see what happens. Jamie's joining us via YouTube. She says I've seen the Galactus face image, but that's it. Yeah, they showed some footage of him like in the window, and it looks like we are getting a proper Galactus in this film, which is great. No more Cloud, no more like Cloud of smoke. You know,
smoke monster.
Yeah, and also, too, Michael Giacchino, you know, who's done scores for Marvel, who did Work by Night. He is doing the score for this film.
Excellent.
Max Shackman says they went to the desert to find the best type of rock for creating the thing. Only footage of Galactus showed his face peering through a building and very clearly a giant cosmic entity. The footage was super 60s retro, showing the cast bonding and heading into space. We're all going to work hard to bring the theme of the family to this film. They also had the Fantastic Car hovering over the Hall H when they came in. They will appear in the upcoming Avengers films. So that's good. Matt Shackman says, Pedro Pascal on joining the Fantastic Four. Matt Shackman and I have known each other for 25 years, and we had the same talent manager, and he almost became my roommate in 1999, but he saw the place and said no. So yeah. Via Entertainment Weekly, let's start this thing off on a completely new foot. So we are beginning just after they get their power. So no origin story, nothing like that. I would love to see this where they're on a couch, like in the cartoon, like the very first episode of the old cartoon, where they're like on a talk show on a couch and they're telling their story. That'd be kind of cool for this film as well. But yeah, that's it for Fantastic Four. But the big news was they talked about the next two Avengers movies. So the Russo brothers are set to direct both Avengers. Hey, RMC's with us. Woody's talked about Brave New World, Fantastic Four, and Thunderbolts, and we're getting to the big shocking news right now about the next Avengers films. So the Russo brothers are set to direct both Avengers 5 and Avengers Secret Wars. They said when we were Anthony Russo said when we directed Endgame, Joe and I truly believed that it was the end of our road for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They went on to say that 4-movie run was incredible and it left us creativity splint. So basically saying that the 2 Captain America films and the 2 Avengers films. And it left us spent with all of our emotions on the floor. In the time since, through a very special story, Joe and I have come to potentially see a road forward with you all. They're not gonna be alone though in this endeavor. Stephen McFeely will also be writing the 2 films, and we are no longer in the Kang Dynasty. It is going to be Avengers Doomsday as the title for Avengers 5. So now it's going to be Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Now, when I said that they had familiarity with Steve McFeely, he also co-wrote Endgame and Infinity War.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about these 3 back together again, because while Endgame and Infinity War are good movies, they left that huge plot hole with Cap Return the Stones. And I hope we don't get anything like that again. So, we'll see. They also, the one good thing about the Russos and all this is that they were pretty big on Captain America and stuff like that. They're not going to have that same Captain America, Chris Rogers, Chris Evans anymore, or Steve Rogers, Chris Evans anymore. So RMC says they want that paycheck. I'm glad they are back though. Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on this. I wouldn't have mind, and I've been very vocal with this in the past where I wouldn't have mind seeing like a team up. And like I said before, it sounded like early on they wanted the director from Deadpool Wolverine.
Levy.
Yeah, they wanted Sean Levy for these movies, but it seems like this was a big commitment, and it seems like other directors were in the fold. I wouldn't mind seeing like a Coogler and Nia DaCosta, team up for these 2 movies just to get a fresh take on it. My favorite like standalone Avengers film is still Age of Ultron. So
I love that movie so much. That one scene with Vision and Thor and Tony all hitting Ultron is one of my favorite moments in the
just
MCU.
that opening sequence too. So so that's why I was saying I wouldn't mind seeing something different. And hopefully this is not like a rendition of those 2 films of Infinity War and Endgame done in like in a different way. So we'll see. But that's the new title is Avengers Doomsday. There was no announcement on a King replacement, which was being teased up to this by a lot of the insiders. But what's also confirmed is that the cast of Captain America, Brave New World, and Thunderbolt will appear in these next Avengers film alongside the Fantastic Four cast. So it seems like all these teams are being built out, and we already heard that the Avengers 5 movie was going to have a big scale of actors in it. So they're putting all these new ones in it. But the big surprising, before I get to the big surprising announcement, Doomsday will premiere May 2026. Avengers Secret Wars will premiere May 2027. So we're back-to-back years. So basically Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts next year. I'm sorry, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four next year. 2026, Avengers Doomsday. 2027, Secret Wars.
I'll just throw this out there real quick. I think bringing the Russos back to work on, Avengers Doomsday and then Secret Wars, I think is almost like the safest play that they could make, right? And I feel like that was them attempting to just choose a safe route rather than to really push the envelope and try anything new, because they did so well with Infinity War, with Endgame, with the Winter Soldier, and they did Civil War too, right? So so I think that's one of those things where it was just the safe choice there.
And I understand it. Actually, I'll hold that thought for a second. RMC says would love to see Levy and the Russos team up, but I think Levy took on Star Wars Project 2, didn't he? Yep. And are they still talking to movies for Secret Wars, or are they counting Doomsday? So the Russos are doing both films, so the directors are set. for both the next two Avengers films. Now, when you say the safe bet, I agree with you, especially with everything going on with the multiverse saga, the whole thing with Jonathan Majors, and trying to figure out what to do with Kang. So, the one thing I did not want them to do in this saga
Is what they did.
is what they exactly did. So, they had a bunch of Dooms on stage, Doctor Doom, and they had a main Doom come out, and when he pulls the mask off, doing the same arms up like he did in Iron Man, RDJ will be playing Doctor Doom. Now, it's unclear how they're going to do it, whether he'll be a variant of, like a Stark variant of Doom, which comic book run they're going to go with. I have some notes on this we can discuss in a little bit. Actually, I'll pull those up here in a second. But it's going to be Robert Downey Jr., and he said new mask, same task, which his basically task was basically put a pseudo armor around the world and protect the world. So I don't know how I feel about this, bringing RDJ back. But like you said, I think with the whole thing with Kang and Majors and trying to right the ship, they went very safe and very appeasing some of the fan base by bringing back the Russos and RDJ. Now, with that being said, it did come out later that via Variety, RDJ would only agree to return if the Russos were directing. Also, too, when RDJ first auditioned for a Marvel role, it was for Doom in the original Fantastic Four that Gillian McMahon got. And also Kevin Feige was involved with that as well. So they already have material of him auditioning for Doom. Now, what makes me think about this now is that they're probably, for Secret Wars, they're probably going to go with the... Secret Wars kind of led to this. I guess they knew about this for months now. And with Deadpool and Wolverine in the trailer, they showed that comic book when he was laying on the ground and had the Doom Secret Wars comic. They were foreshadowing this. I bet. I wonder how much Sean Levy knew since they were looking for him for these films. The Russos specifically mentioned the Star Wars crossover from 1984 and 2015. So it sounds like those might be the comic runs they may pull some material from the movie. They both those crossovers are basically involve Doom giving powers from their Beyonder. So I'll be interested to see who they bring in for the Beyonder, how they explain transitioning from Kang. I hope they don't do something lazy and say that Kang were Doom bots. Either just pivot completely away from Kang, or have that scene where he orders Ultron to kill Kang in the very beginning of the film and start off right. Real quick, Jimmy Cloud via the chat here says, I've been so impressed if they had cast I wouldn't have been so impressed if they cast RDJ, filmed everything and it never leaked and was only revealed at the premiere. That would have been impressive. Yes. I'm interested to see, because I don't know if they're going to have him disfigured face. I don't know if they're not going to show his face. There are some comic runs that have some crossover with Iron Man. So if you look at Marvel Team Up 2 and 3, Iron Maniac is from a universe where the Avengers never disbanded, became corrupted as a result of the tragedies that followed, and arrived in Earth 616 universe during a period when the Avengers had disbanded, just like in the MCU. So that's one run there. Infamous Iron Man. After Civil War II, Dr. Doom assumes the mantle of Iron Man. Tony is just an AI. Doom is on a redemption with everyone after him, heroes and villains. Mephisto plays some trickery, showing up as his mother, so Doom's mother, and Reed before finally being defeated. The Thing and Human Torch are also in the story, along with Ironheart. So this one makes a little bit sense if they do this, because one, Ironheart's going to happen next year. Mephisto's going to be in that show. We're going to have the Fantastic Four next year, so they could use this run. And this is the one I think where he pulls up the mask. He has like the Iron Man suit on, but it's the Doom colors, and he pulls up the mask and it's his face. Now, my favorite one is Exiles, where this is like the most evil Iron Man I think in the comics. It's called With an Iron Fist. Basically, he secretly allied with villains before defeating them to make himself look bigger. And this is where he kills Magneto, for example. He also defeats Doom. He created a disease to then release a cure to become president of the United States. He also used his technology to create natural disasters before
Mm-hmm.
stopping them to basically for them to turn him to help. He became emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And Doom, Magneto were all involved in this. He defeated them both. He also killed Reed Richards in this one.
Mm-hmm.
He took Doom's cloak and he wore it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one thing about this too is that this had the Inhumans in it, where basically Reed gave Sue Storm some technology to help hide them and protect them, and basically sent her down to Atlian to go with the Inhumans, where he couldn't really get into. Now, we don't have Inhumans anymore, like of course, in the MCU,
Mm-hmm.
but they could basically do something like this with this. They could go off this run, basically, have Reed get killed in another universe. Sue goes off with some technology, maybe some time traveling, some universe jumping technology. Maybe he reverse engineers that, and they basically use that as a battle world type thing going against Emperor Stark.
Mm-hmm.
They could make because Wolverine was an exile too in this comic.
Mm-hmm.
And the exiles were kind of the team to go after these people and kind of help things and so forth. So what they could do is now, after the events of Deadpool, and I won't say anything else about this, but they could use from the events of Deadpool, make them the TVA Exiles team, and then they
Mm-hmm.
could basically with Sue Storm start pulling people from other universes to go after Emperor Stark and defeat him.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing they could go with this. The other one was one more I had here. The other one you could look at is the what if Iron Man demon in an armor. So
Mm-hmm.
that's if they do any kind of variant crossover stuff. Maybe they won't. Maybe I'm just thinking too much into this. Maybe they're going to be straight Doctor Doom and not even reference Iron Man. But I don't think they're going to hide his face at all. Just for the fact that how would you love to see the on-screen reaction when Peter Parker comes across him,
Mm-hmm.
right, and looks at him as like Tony, and he's like, "No, I'm Doom." Think
Mm-hmm.
about that scene on screen, seeing that, or think about just any other Avengers, Thor, any of
Mm-hmm.
the other ones that we saw at the events of Endgame, Rhodey,
Mm-hmm.
Pepper, anyone from the events of Endgame, thinking that he pulls the mask off if they don't go with the disfiguration and that kind of stuff, unless
Mm-hmm.
they're like I said, unless they're going to completely ignore that and so forth. So
So I will say this: I'm not incredibly excited about RDJ playing the character, but I could totally see them doing a couple of things. And one of those is, we've already seen in What If them kind of explore a universe where Ultron won, and that I would honestly like to see. And I think they could do this. Let's pretend it's Tony Stark, and that becomes Doom, and it not what we want, but let's pretend that it is. What if it is like the universe where he built Ultron the way that he
Yep.
wanted, and Ultron worked, and then that evolved into Doom bots and all
Yep.
that kind of stuff, and then he ends up kind of putting that suit of armor around the world and himself and becoming like Doom, and he kind of loses control and goes nuts. And the other thing that I could totally see them doing, and I'm not sure how they would do this because they would have to put it on screen, so maybe it would take place like in Doomsday or something. But let's pretend in a universe where Tony Stark didn't die in Endgame, and he is taken by the TVA, and then they use that Tony Stark to try and help fix some sort of problem in the TVA, and he gets a hold of the TVA while Loki's like, holding everything together, and he ends up destroying everything and, making a universe in his image, the battle world, if you will.
So what he could do, and I like this idea, I'm gonna add on to it here.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the threat the TVA brings him in for is the Beyonders.
Mm-hmm.
In some way he defeats the Beyonders, gets their power, and that's how he goes crazy and creates Battle War. Just kind of add on to that to make it in his perfect image. So
Mm-hmm.
that could be the way they're going, because it like I said, it does sound like we're gonna possibly get some, what the comic runs the Russos mentioned, that they may go to the part where he does get the Beyonders power, and they're gonna go through this, but that's good things here. I'm gonna catch the chat here. RMC says Marvel has their back against the wall with Kang, though. I think they'll still recast Kang, but turn around and kill him off. I'm literally split down the middle with RDJ playing Doom. Now, yes, they probably did. They, like I said, like Alex said too, they went safe route. They went with something they know that's gonna bring fans in and bring money in. Apparently, RDJ is getting like $80 million for both movies to do both these films, reported by Variety. So yeah, I think the whole King situation, and there was talk about that in the contract that Majors was the only one who could play King possibly, and I don't know if they could get out of that contract. Maybe that's why they went this route. You know, I would have loved to go other villains for this. Beyonders, you know, could have been one. They could have gone, you know, they could have. I'm not gonna get into Deadpool Wolverine. They could have made Cassandra Nova the villain. You know, that kind of stuff. There's ways they could have done this. So, RMC also says, I think it'll be good, no question about that, really, but would have liked to see someone else get a shot like Murphy. Yep, Cillian Murphy, Mads Mikkelsen.
Yes.
Maybe we get him when they recast everyone with the reset. RDJ only 2 movies. Yeah, if they do the reset, you know. So we'll see. Hold on, one more second here. A couple more things. Didn't we see the new Ultimates to figure out what they're doing? Ultimate number 4. I think there's some stuff now in the new Ultimates about this that's there. On the whole thing about Peter. They'll all be shocked, but Peter will absolutely struggle. And I think Peter, you know, what will be the thing here is him struggling when he sees him, and then having to be the one to kill him. Jamie goes, RDJ's face is too expensive to cover up, right? And see, that's what I'm thinking too as well. I don't think they're going to completely disfigure him.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm interested to see how this goes, but go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, imagine this. Imagine Tony Stark comes to the TVA and they tell Tony, hey, you know, after the events of Loki season 2, Loki's basically out there holding it all together because the temporal loom is you know, been replaced by him. So what if they ask the engineer himself to try and engineer a fix for that problem, and he ends up destroying it all, and that's how we end up getting, you know, him becoming Doom. Is I love that idea because it's very Tony Stark. You know, Tony Stark is always like causing just about as much problems as he is like fixing problems at the same time. He's got a lot of collateral damage as a character, you know. And that's in comics and the MCU, you know. So
you know what else they could have done too? Instead of going to Doom, they could have made an alternate universe Tony Stark do the same thing here, Superior Iron Man. Could have been another way they could have gone to as well. Like I said, at first I was kind of like, this seems lazy bringing the brothers back plus RDJ, but you know, that was my initial reaction, and I'm still like indifferent on it right now. But I'll definitely wait and see and how things progress. You know, for me, it'll be, you know, Doomsday, you know, what that's going to be like. Are they going to go into a Doom story? Are we going to get Doom right off the bat? I want to see how they're going to do things. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I will say this. I think with everything going on with Majors and everything in that problem and them kind of having to move forward, I think this was one of those things where they were just basically like, hey, you know, what can we do here? Well, everybody loves RDJ. So, like, people are just going to accept him. Like, people have been wanting him back as Iron Man. Let's just bring him back as somebody else. And, you know, a majority of people are going to just accept it and smile and take it. And they're not going to really put up a fight because he was a backbone of the MCU for quite some time.
He kicked off the MCU. So,
yes. So, I mean, you know, for him, like, you know, I know years ago he said he was going to put down the jersey and kind of move on and get past Iron Man.
He won an Oscar for Oppenheimer, didn't he?
I think so.
Like supporting actor or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for him now at this point, I mean, like Jamie said earlier, his face is too expensive to cover up. I can't imagine that they're paying him chump change. Like he's going to be, you know, he was getting too expensive as Iron Man. So I'm assuming he's going to be even more expensive now going forward, you know? So it'll be really interesting to see how long. I mean, I can't imagine that they keep him around after Secret Wars or anything. This is probably going to be, like you said, just a 2-film thing. And then if they do a soft reboot, you know, he'll be gone. And yeah, so.
The nice thing is with the multiverse and all this, they can always bring another Doom in later, the actual Doom they're going to go with going forward. So
I hope they do, and I hope it's Cillian Murphy, because I that was my Doom dream cast. And when I saw this, I was literally just like, I was doing something and I saw it and I was like, what am I looking at? Like, is this real? Like, you know, like I love RDJ, but I don't want him as Doom, to be honest. So
see, my ideal was a voice actor and just have someone in the mask, and we never see behind the mask ever. And we have a great voice actor doing the lines for Doom was my thing. RMC says, I think they can take more risk again when they start getting back to success like they had pre-COVID. I think right now they need the safe bets, not for the money, but mostly fans. But the thing is, though, they're going to make over $1 billion with Deadpool and Wolverine. So, you know, in the looks of Brave New World, and then Thunderbolt and Fantastic Four, you know, I think we're just getting out of that pre-COVID lump. And honestly, I thought Captain Marvel would have been that first one to do that back on track, but with the strikes and the marketing, because the Marvels, you know, that's been very popular on Disney Plus, and it's sad that a film's success is only done by the box office, not streaming numbers, not anything else. But I understand that movie was expensive to make, and they wanted to make, you know, their net back on that, you know, cover the net on that movie. So I get that, but yeah. Anyways, Jimmy goes, you know, the Oscar prices, that Oscar to the price is up. So,
Yes, definitely.
yeah, there you go. I was kind of shocked and not surprised at the same time that we didn't get any more of the slate of movies, that we only got the release dates for Fantastic Four and the 2 Avengers movies, and Thunderbolts, you know, talked about. We didn't get any other gaps filled. You know, my one thing about this is that I think they, instead of going in with the Avengers movies now, they probably should have waited on that. You know, maybe until next year at Comic-Con, for example, waited on that. What I thought they probably should have done is probably, you know, we have some new blood in the MCU, and we have some big hitters that they could have also banked on. Doctor Strange 3, for example, that would have been a great announcement instead of this, right? A Shang-Chi 2, right? Shang-Chi was a huge film and a great film. You know, build out some of these other characters, even a Thor 5, you know, announcement of that, and have the guy that was Hercules, you know, bring them out. Let me go to the chat here real quick. Jamie goes, they hit 30 billion, so I don't want to hear any complaint about budgets. Yep, there you go. And then nothing about any shows. So D23 is coming up, and I'm going to assume the shows are them. Are going to be done there and then. They're going to probably focus on the shows at D23 coming up soon. RMC goes, they lost a lot of the fan base in this last phase. I think they're trying to win them back. I don't know if they lost a lot of fan base. I just think, because if you think about it, the movie industry kind of got hit as a whole with the strikes and then COVID and that kind of stuff. So I think we're now just getting back to that. I don't think they really lost some of the fan base, but what are your thoughts?
For me personally, like I used to get around and watch a lot of Marvel movies with my friends and stuff, and you know, we would go to the movie theaters and see Marvel movies, and they come out, and there'd be 5, 6, 7 of us that would all go, whatever. I have noticed that since we got to the multiverse stuff, and since we got to the, you know, everything's kind of just going every which direction and everything, people have, like, almost, in my opinion, in my personal circles, lost interest, because I don't think that they understand everything that's happening, and they're like confused. And obviously Marvel wants you to go out and watch every movie and every project and stuff like that, but I don't think that like a lot of projects capture people like here as much as they used to. And for whatever reason, I think a lot of that just has to do with like people are confused, you know, like it's not as straightforward as it was. And I think that, I hate to say this, but you know, Jamie mentioned the shows in the comments, but like, you know, I almost think that the shows kind of hurt them in a way, because like a lot of people I know were like, oh great, now I got to watch TV shows too. Like a movie's like 2 hours, but now, you know, if a TV show's 8 episodes, I got to commit 45 minutes 8 times to episodes of a TV show. And there are tons of people I know that are still Marvel fans. They're going to movies, but they didn't watch Loki. They didn't, like, you know, a couple. I went to go see Deadpool with and Wolverine with 3 people, and I was the only one out of the 4 of us that had seen Loki all the way through. And, you know, one of those, like, was my girlfriend. We're watching Loki right now, but we didn't make it all the way to the end. And so, you know, it's one of those things. I think that there are so many TV shows and so many projects now that I think a lot of people are just like overwhelmed by the amount of content almost. And not saying it's like negative, but I think at a certain point it's like you have like such a big wave of content. It's like, where do I start? And, do I have enough time to commit to this? Like, because it's a lot. It really is. And, I think it's kind of grasps certain fans a little bit more, because a lot of us are going to watch, Marvel content regardless of what it is, because we love all the characters. And some people are like, hey, like, people I know that didn't watch WandaVision, they're like confused on why they should watch WandaVision, but then they watch Multiverse of Madness and they're like, why does it feel like this movie starts off weird? Why is Wanda the way that she is in this movie? And it's like, well, you got to go watch WandaVision. And they're like, oh, well, I didn't watch WandaVision, so that's why it was like that, So I think that the TV shows just kind of hurt us a little bit, I think, like for the collective fans, but obviously I want more TV shows. I want more content in general. I just don't want it to be diluted, I guess.
So I agree with you on some, and thinking back on RMC's comment about the lost law of the fan base, I think the hardcore fans are watching all the content. I think it's the more general fans that only know certain characters, and that's why I think, Deadpool Wolverine, because Wolverine was a popular character, and his whole Hugh Jackman's history with the movies and that kind of stuff. Plus you get, Ryan Reynolds behind it with Deadpool and just what he's done with Deadpool and how he markets and that kind of stuff. So I get that, and it's gonna bring back a lot of the casual fan base back with some of these films. But you can't keep going every project, every film with the big heavy hitters, though. It's like you got to have, I don't want to see every film of the same characters. I want to see some more other character stories. Now, one thing I would suggest, though, is that the one thing that grinds my gears when I go see a film in movie theater, there are 30 minutes of previews of other movies.
Yes.
Now, instead of using that 30 minutes of showing us previews and that kind of stuff, why don't they just change that out or even Marvel could say, hey, you know what? We're going to have an extra 20 or 30 minutes on our showtime. And what we're going to do is give you a recap of other events that happened that kind of catch you up to this film. Like WandaVision did this, Multiverse of Madness. WandaVision did this, blah, blah, blah. This would happen. Vision died in Endgame. I'm sorry, in Infinity War, blah, blah, blah. That kind of like fast, quick recap. I think that would do them better than having to sit through 30 minutes of previews of stuff that I may or may not see.
And it's like, I know somebody that they watched Hawkeye, the TV show, by accident because they thought it was a Hawkeye movie, and then they made it through the first episode and they're like, oh, this is a TV show. Well, I guess I love Hawkeye, so like I'll keep watching it. But I didn't realize. I'm invested at this point now. But they, other than like watching some of Loki, they haven't really watched like any of the Marvel TV shows. And then like, I start going through the list of, you got to watch WandaVision. You got to watch, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You got to watch What If. You got to watch, and it's like, I'm just like hitting them repeatedly with this, and they're like, I don't have that much time,
That's
and
what I'm saying. A quick recap instead of showing me all those previews. Honestly, in Deadpool Wolverine, the previews, they probably showed like, 5 to 7 previews. I remember 2. Borderlands, Venom. That's all I remember. Nothing else. Nothing else they showed. I'm sorry. Brave New World they showed as well. So 3. So 3 out of like the 5 to 7 trailers I actually paid attention to. The rest I could care less, right? Actually, hold on. There is one more. James McAvoy's new film, See No Evil or Speak No Evil, that looked very good as well. But other than that, for the most part, it's like, I can go watch trailers online at any time. It's like, I don't need to see trailers on the big screen from the movie. Give me a recap. Give me a quick recap. And you could even use Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, to kind of jump in and kind of be, the person to do that. So RMC goes, just want the quality back. Don't need to hire AI A-listers to bust the budget. Up-and-comers, use up-and-comers that can get cheap as long as they can act and have a great script. They do great. Yeah, and I agree with that too. I agree that you have to have some of your long stays, but if I have to rant on one thing, it's the Disney Plus show budgets, especially when the shows aren't that great. I'm talking about you, Secret Invasion. maybe you see that kind of stuff. You don't need the big blockbuster budgets for those Disney Plus shows.
And I want to say like Secret Invasion had a budget of like $250 million or something. That was like $50 million more than Deadpool and Wolverine. And you're like, what did you spend that money on? Because like I can see what they spent the money on in that movie, but like in that TV show, it's like, I get it, like scrolls and whatnot, but it's like, for that TV show, I just really think that, maybe they just gave it all to actors for their salaries or something,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but like, it just, a lot of TV shows like Secret Invasion, like I was excited for that show. And then after watching it, it's like, we didn't really need this, in my opinion. It was great seeing Samuel L. Jackson back. I didn't hate Emilia Clarke's character really until the end. And then I didn't really understand why they did what they did. And then, Gravik was a pretty solid villain, and I didn't like what they did with him at the end and everything. And the other thing that I'll throw out there is Disney needs to stop killing villains and everything. Like, leave it open. Like, let them exist. Like, they can go to jail. They can be put down for a while and come back. Because, like, at a certain point, it's like, all right, you're going to kill off, like, a large majority of a lot of strong villains. And, the only villain that, with Kang, at least there was going to be variants and stuff like that. But we don't have to lean into variants every time we want to see a villain. Like, so don't kill them off and let them exist. Like, we've had people like the leader who, have been there, and then they'll come back and they'll play like more roles in the future. But like, for the most part, a very small fraction of villains should be killed off, in my opinion, in future movies. So
the other glaring thing too is they talk about nothing else in their slate. So it's like we got the 3 films we already knew about. We knew Avengers movies were coming. We just didn't know that it was going to change the Doomsday and the exact dates on the schedule. Hold on real quick. Let me see what RMC is saying here. Us diehards aren't going anywhere, obviously, but if they can give us better quality, they're one people back, no question in my mind. I feel like that's the biggest reason for the decline. But other than Secret Invasion, has the quality really gone down, though? There was a couple of plot holes in the Marvels, but as far as the Marvels as itself, I thought it was a great film and a way to extend the franchise.
Yeah, I didn't hate the Marvels. I just really, I question if we really needed the X-Men at the end of that, like it kind of being referenced and talked about and everything after, she goes through into the other universe. But I don't know. Like, I think a lot of movies are just, the Marvels really got a bad hand because of what was going on with the strike and everything when that came out. And that literally stopped like the day it went to theaters, so it was like, okay. But like, even though that was a thing, I don't imagine that movie, if it had marketing and everything, would have done, $1 billion or anything.
I don't think it would have done like $1 billion, but it probably would have broken 500 million probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of movies now, like the budgets are so huge. I mean, most Marvel movies are getting budgets of like 150 to 250 million dollars now, and they're hoping that they're going to come out and crush, those, obviously, with 700-800 million, $1 billion, whatever it may be. And then they also spend $100 million on marketing too. So, like, I mean, I think for Deadpool and Wolverine, they spent like $100 million or something like that, I was reading. So I think that, if they focus more on the stories and they focus more on like making solid content, I think it would really benefit them. But with the multiverse saga, the biggest problem that I think is kind of hurting them is with the multiverse stuff, you don't really have to make everything like cohesive, right? Like if you get to Battle World, you just have everybody dump into Battle World, and you don't have to like make a story that everybody's connected to. You just dump them there, and then you go to that for Secret Wars. But I think with everything kind of being the way that it is now, I think a lot of people are just like, do I really need to watch this? Like, other than like us diehards, I don't really know many people that have watched Moon Knight, for instance. And Moon Knight was a good show. I loved that show. So like, it's like, but I talked to people about Moon Knight, and not a lot of people I know have watched it or really like are super excited about it. And they need to do a Moon Knight season 2. But it's like, with the shows being like they are, I think that like the shows have kind of hurt us in a way, because it's like there's just so much going on and people are lost. So
RMC goes, amen to that, Alex. We lost too many good ones that should be reoccurring. Claw, Crossbones, etc. Exactly. RMC also says, of course, it's all perspective. Everyone is different in what they like. I just mean, for the content they put out, it wasn't what we were getting in the first few phases. But you also were around the core 5 though, the first few phases too, and we're away from the core 5 now. So it's like we had that. They built up the first couple of Avengers or Marvel movies were basically building out. Well, first they built the big 3 out, right? Cap, Iron Man, Thor. Then we got into Iron Man 2, and then we got a Hulk movie in there. So they got the 4 there. Then we got the Avengers movie, which brought in, and then like through Thor we got Hawkeye. Through Iron Man 2 we got Black Widow. So they kind of built out the Avengers roster like that, and we got to an Avengers film.
And with Hawkeye and the Black Widow, like we had the Hawkeye show and the Black Widow movie, so it's like they were kind of giving some content to those other 2 members that really I don't think got a big light in the original 6 Avengers, right? Like, so you kind of had them kind of shining some light where they should have a long time ago.
Yep.
But the Black Widow movie wasn't terrible. I just didn't really like it as much as I thought I was going to. And the Hawkeye show was phenomenal. I love the Hawkeye show, but like the Black Widow movie wasn't bad by any means, but we should have had a couple of Black Widow movies, I think, and they should have been earlier on. But I think a lot of stuff back in like phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 was more concentrated. Like the story was more focused on a smaller number of characters. And ever since we went to Endgame, now it's like the scope is so wide that there's so many characters out there now that it's like hard to do justice to every single one of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I think the other characters we got there was like Doctor Strange movie, we got Guardians, and we got Spider-Man and Black Panther, and that was it. We had a very small roster, and then it kind of blew up with what we got with and Captain Marvel. We kind of, so yeah, I get that. Now kind of keeping things moving here with time and everything. They announced nothing else in their slate, so there's still gaps in project dates in their slate that we don't know what's going on. Now, it was the 5-year anniversary of Mahershala Ali coming on stage at Comic-Con in Hall H and putting the Blade hat on and then announcing the Blade movie. On the 5-year anniversary, though, guess what? Blade is no longer on track to meet its November 7th, 2025 release. Now, with that being said, there was no Spider-Man stuff, which of course, because Sony controls Spider-Man rights, Sony was the one to announce a Spider-Man date. We still get a Spider-Man 4 next year for that date, unless they get rid of the date completely. But we still could get a Spider-Man 4 movie with Holland. So we'll have to see what that's going to entail. Now, Blade's still happening. They've talked about the script. It's still going. They're still doing things.
Probably a 2026 thing.
It's probably a 2026 movie. RMC, before I get to the Joker stuff, RMC, I agree there were a handful of things that were different during phase 4, especially COVID. Sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm not. LOL. Just relating it to the reason why I think they lost some fans. And that's fair. And no one's thinking that you're complaining. We're having a dialogue here. This is a safe space.
I'm gonna complain for a second. There were 3 Blade movies made with Wesley Snipes that came out in less time than it will be that we got 1 Blade movie in the MCU.
Don't get me going. We gotta keep Blade. So RMC also says, I feel like they're getting the train back on the track, though. That seems clear. I don't think the train never left the track. I just think it got stuck at the station and possibly, so how like we have passenger trains and freight trains in the US, right? And typically freight trains have all the right of way on all of the tracks here in the US. What I think was what happened with these last couple of phases is that a freight train got the right of way, and the MCU, being the Amtrak passenger train, got stuck waiting for the train to go so they could continue the journey. I think that's kind of what happened. So but anyways, that's all the Marvel stuff from Comic-Con. Joker news. So just so you know, actually I'll come back to this later because this is not part of Comic-Con. DC was not really at Comic-Con much. But via Variety, they said they were sitting out this Comic-Con as co-chair James Gunn couldn't fit in an appearance between directing duties on Superman and Peacemaker season 2. But they were going to break some news. So we got a new Joker trailer that came out. Harley Quinn news, season 5 of the Max premieres in November on the Max premieres in November. Peacemaker via Instagram, Joel Kinnaman will return to the DC universe in Peacemaker season 2. That sounds like that's a flashback probably of Rick Flag. Superman and Lois had a panel there. They had a trailer come out as well. October 17th will be a 2-hour premiere for the final season. Other DC news. Actually, I'll come back to the other DC news. The Boys were at Comic-Con as well.
Okay.
So they had all the cast out there. There's a huge picture of all the cast together. Jensen Ackles' Soldier Boy is confirmed to return in the final season. The writers have been working on the final season for 2 months of The Boys. Via Variety, Jensen Ackles' Soldier Boy will be a significant part of the final season. There's a lot of good father-son emotion between him and Homelander that we never really got a chance to play that we're really interested in. But also, too, from The Boys, that was reported just after Comic-Con, so I'll just do this now. Via Games Radar, Soldier Boy's main goal in the final season will be to kill Billy Butcher. So they said he's an excellent antagonist to switch sides and basically, be with the soups. So
I think that I think with Homelander too, like with Soldier Boy being his father in the show, I think that's going to be one of those things where like he's been trying to be a father to Ryan and has not really been succeeding in every way. And I think Soldier Boy kind of coming around to be like a father figure to him is going to really kind of impact Homelander, and his attention, I think, is going to shift away from Ryan and towards Soldier Boy a little bit. And it might cause some more stress to be between him and Ryan, I think, moving forward.
And that's where kind of Ryan is going to come back to Butcher.
Yeah.
Or I should say, the
Tentacles.
Kessler.
Kessler. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that's where we're going with this. And, I'm a little bit surprised that I love Jensen Ackles, so I'll always take more of Jensen Ackles. I'm sure you're going to get to, the show that you might mention here in a second, and I'll talk more about that. But, I'm not going to complain, but I just hope that they actually bring Jared Padalecki into for the next season.
He's got to be the Thor person. I got to see the Eternity Gauntlet.
Yep, the Children of Stormfront.
Front. Speaking of Soldier Boy in Stormfront, they made an announcement. So we thought that after The Boys, what was going to be next? Would it be more Gen V, other projects? Well, there's going to be a new project in the Soup universe. Introducing the next deranged entry into the world of The Boys, Vought Rising, starring Jensen Ackles, Aya Cash, set in the 1950s, exploring the early exploits of Soldier Boy in a soup as Stormfront. Only advice for now is to keep your hands off the explicative shield. The series will follow a twisted murder mystery about the origins of Vought in the 1950s, the early exploits of Soldier Boy, and the diabolical maneuvers of a soup known to fans as Stormfront. Now, she was not Stormfront, I don't think, until she came into modern times. If I remember correctly, she was Liberty Bell when she was first a soup. So I wonder if we're going to see more, because didn't she kill she killed someone related to, I think, Mother's Milk, wasn't it?
No, I think that was Soldier Boy that killed his father, right?
Okay, but there was someone, they had a flashback of Liberty Bell killed somebody when they first introduced her, because someone said, I recognize her. That's Liberty Bell, who's now Stormfront. I gotta watch that season again. But anyways, I think we're gonna get, this is gonna be cool, because we're gonna get more of Stormfront's background, which they kind of teased in that season. and we've seen some of the pictures and that kind of stuff, and they've teased.
Didn't she kill him in a car or something like
Yeah,
that? Like
she
that.
killed somebody in a car.
It was
Yeah.
a very Winter Soldier like moment where
Yep.
like when he killed the Starks, like, you know, kind of similar to that
Yep,
almost.
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're probably gonna see her origins, the Vought origins, all that kind of stuff. So that's gonna be very interesting. Let me see from the chat here. RMC says been rewatching Harley Quinn season 4. I've been watching Harley Quinn already to season 4. He agrees with me about the whole train analogy about MCU. I completely agree. Homelander will be dead by the time the show ends. Completely agree there. So yeah, that's good. We're gonna get some more boy stuff in the Soup universe with Vought Rising, the boys one. There was some Gen V news as well. So Gen V season 2 is confirmed to release in 2025. Chase Crawford's Deep will make an appearance. All right, thanks for joining us, Jamie. We'll see you later. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. That's why I thought it was the one Mother's Milk. It was a black guy with car trouble. So I gotta go back and watch that now, the whole Stormfront season. But yeah, so we're gonna get that. That's all the Comic-Con news, but I'll go into general news now. So going back, Disney news, Ike Perlmutter has sold his entire Disney stake. Now, he was the one that made those comments that publicly and was trying to outmaneuver and buy up support to kind of lead Disney, which now it looks like he's gone. So that's kind of a welcome thing there. Yeah, because his comments were not very good. Kevin Feige, this before Comic-Con, they discussed RDJ and Chris Evans' return via discussing film. Kevin Feige on Tony Stark and Steve Rogers possibly returning to the MCU after Endgame. We're just proud that we, I think, have figured it out for Wolverine. I think Hugh's appearance and stalling role in Deadpool Wolverine is a great sign that can be done if great care is taken. And it does, and that's kind of funny too, because after some recent events, you know, that's kind of funny. We won't comment anymore on that. Deadpool and Wolverine red carpet. Sean Levy at the premiere of Marvel Future on his Marvel Future says, "I won't be surprised if there's more Marvel in my future. Also, when would have to be the right idea, the right story, and the right moment." Kevin Feige confirms there'll be more R-rated projects in the MCU following Deadpool and Wolverine, and we already know that that Blade will be rated R when it comes out.
And I assume The Punisher, even if it's a TV show, I mean, that's, you know, going to be explicit. So, you know.
Wolverine, the MCU, via discussing film, Kevin Feige says there's no plan to recast Wolverine soon, and the next actor should have their own style, not imitate Hugh Jackman. I think the next Wolverine actor will be a very different style. A Hugh Jackman as Wolverine impression will be a pretty big mistake. So, James McAvoy, via Variety, McAvoy says he's going to be interested in portraying Professor X again. He's always going to be interested to play again. Let me go back to the DC. Did I have any other Marvel news? I had some extra stuff because we changed this here. Here we go. Deadpool Wolverine. Tom Holland's brother, Harry Holland, was one of the Deadpool variants in the movie. And Tom Holland didn't know it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm sorry, and Ryan Reynolds didn't know it. It was Tom Holland's brother. He goes, "This is how I found out." Also, too, the last thing here about the Marvel news, there was something from the leader actor. Let me find it again. My notes are all messed up this week. It was down here. It was in Thunderbolts. I mixed up that in here, I think.
I'll just throw this out there real quick, kind of interject this. Talking about James McAvoy coming back, it would have been so funny. I think somebody's made this joke already, but if he would have come back and played Cassandra Nova, and it would have been like Split, you know, like
Patricia?
Yeah, it's me, Patricia, you know, like it would have been so funny to see that. I think I would have laughed the whole time because, you know, they are twins, so it would have been funny. But
I believe Levy did take on a Star Wars project, RMC. Well, you know what's funny though? So the same month that Fantastic Four comes out is the same month that the Grogu and Mandalorian film comes out. So Pedro Pascal will be leading two films in the same month of 2025.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Here we go. So Tim Blake via EW. requested a practical portrayal of the leader in Brave New World. I really wanted to have the weight and feel of the character and have the deformation of the character and have the other actors experience that. So there's going to be no special effects for the leader. It's all going to be practical effects.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Let me see here. What was the other news here? Oh, yeah, back. It was DC stuff. The Joker, according to closed captions in the new trailer, Harvey Dent will appear or be referenced in the film. So if you watch the newest trailer and turn the closed captions on, which I always do now, watch the trailers, you see them talk about Harvey Dent.
Harvey Dent, can we trust him?
Yeah. Via Empire Online, Todd Phillips says that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker will never become the Gotham clown prince of crime. Arthur clearly is not a criminal mastermind. He was never that.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Penguin trailer also released during Comic-Con as well.
Mm-hmm.
But via Entertainment Weekly, the Penguin takes place 1 week after the first film of the Batman and leads directly into the Batman 2. Basically says we are a bridge between the two films. It's a Scarface story described by Lauren LaFranc, who's the lead writer and showrunner. It's a rise to power story of Oz before he really makes it to the top.
Mm-hmm.
The Penguin centers on an intense power vacuum that formed from the death of mobster Carmine Falcone. Matt Reeves and Dylan Clark are actively looking for the new Batman spin-off series. So
Interesting.
And I think that's all I have for the news today. At least the RMC says. I wanted to see a shot of Charles and Cassandra fighting in the room. I'm surprised they didn't do that. Especially with how with Ryan Reynolds is in Deadpool, that they didn't get us any kind of shot on that. That would be kind of cool to see on the screen.
I will throw out a couple of DC things. I heard that they did mention that there will be a new DC logo.
It's released. It's out there.
Yeah, and that's going to be out there. And then the other thing, which I haven't watched yet, is we do have Kite Man out there, the animated show. So that's kind of the spinoff of the Harley Quinn show. So haven't seen it yet, but I made a joke the other day. It kind of reminds me of a mixture of the Harley Quinn show and Cheers, because it seems like in just the trailer, a lot of it takes place in a bar. So I'm sure it might be different, but yeah, that's kind of random and exciting. I'm looking forward to watching that at some point. So
I think there's a Hitmonkey is coming out soon, or is out too as well. The new season. I got to double check on that one.
Okay.
RMC says Penguin looks so good. Yeah, it does look good. I actually like what Matt Reeves is doing. Hopefully, Gunn leaves him alone and lets him cook.
Yeah, I think with all of that, that's the stuff that's been like battle tested, right? Like the Batman and the Joker franchise. I think the Joker franchise made over $1 billion in its first movie, so I would imagine the second one will probably do really well. I love Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. I actually like her more than Robbie, to be honest. She was like she would have been who I would have chosen a long time ago, but and she does great in AHS in a couple of different roles. So I honestly think that the Joker, I'm not a big fan of the Joker movie, but when you kind of zoom out and you kind of really take off what you know about the Joker and you watch that movie, it's not a bad movie, and I love, of course, Matt Reeves, the Batman. So
yeah, I've only seen Lady Gaga in one film, and that was the film with the actor who voiced Raccoon, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah,
A Star Is Born. I think that's the only film I've ever seen her in that I can remember. I hope she does. The one thing I liked about Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is she caught the crazy pretty well. That was the one thing that she did really well as Harley Quinn, was the crazy part. But we'll wait and see. I'm not, the trailer looked good, but it didn't really excite me really well. That might be a streaming one for me. I don't know. But I'll have to wait and see how she does in the film though. Also, too, I forgot to mention, the Superman film has wrapped filming as well. So it's now in post-production. So
very nice.
RMC says Kite Man is funny. I've been watching. His girlfriend looks different than she did in the HQ show. It looks like Cheers LOL. I gotta watch that one too. That's my list.
I
That's
need
on
to
Max, right?
Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
get caught up on the Harley Quinn show. Like, it was so funny, and I forget at what point, but I've got to be in season 2 or season 3, I think, is where like I stopped watching, and I just need to go back and pick back up. But man, that show is so funny and so random, and like I always mention, I won't say what happens, but they have a scene with Dr. Psycho and Wonder Woman like right off the bat in the first episode where it's so funny, and basically Wonder Woman like hurts him and he calls her a foul name, and it is so funny, and he ends up getting put on TV for it and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, Poison Ivy's in that show too. So if you're a big Poison Ivy fan, that's always exciting to see more of her. I love Poison Ivy. And yeah, they've got what's his name? Alan Tudyk. He was the guy. He has done tons of DC stuff, but he is the voice of Clayface. I believe in that, and he might be the voice of a couple other characters, but he was Mr. Nobody in Doom Patrol, and he's played in other stuff. I think he was in that DC show that was on the CW or something. I don't remember exactly what channel it was on, but it was the one about people not really having powers and just kind of being around. It's like Powerless or something like that is what it was called in the DC world. But yeah, he's also really funny, and he does a great job in that show. So
Hitmonkey, I looked up real quick. The whole season released on July 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So it's out there on Hulu.
Okay, so just 15 days ago.
And I thought I saw something about they wanted to cross over Hitmonkey with Deadpool too as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't there supposed to be like a Deadpool animation at some point?
Yeah, I thought so, but I'm not sure what happened with that. So
that would have been interesting if there was a Deadpool animation and then there was the Hitmonkey show and they crossed them over and they did that. That would have been really funny. So.
But that's all we have today for Comic-Con, and we're caught up on the news. Again, we should be back on Sunday. I got to confirm with Andy to do the Deadpool review, Deadpool and Wolverine review as well. I guess that will be we'll be out of our spoiler ban for the group, won't we? Or is it 2 weeks?
I don't know if we will be.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that movie just came out last Thursday, technically. So, when are we doing that?
On Sunday.
Sunday. Okay, yeah. So, I don't know if we'll be technically out of the spoiler ban by that point, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to talk about that movie. I'll just say that. So, hey, we talked about it before the podcast, and obviously, there's so much that. I'm really glad that they kept a lot of stuff under wraps for that movie, because I was very surprised by a lot of things in that movie. So
that huge surprise, a couple huge surprises there. So anywho, we're excited to have Andy back too as well. So looking forward to that. Thank you, RMC and Jamie, for joining us in the chat today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you listen to the podcast. Give us a review. We love the feedback. You can find us streaming on Trovo, Twitch, Kick, YouTube. At some point, we'll get the page back. Please, if you are on Facebook, please follow the page so we can get the followers up, because Facebook put in a minimum follower rule now for a page to be able to stream to. And we seem like we'll get the most followers from our Facebook page. So if you listen to the show on your podcast app, please make sure you follow us on the Facebook page as well. That's all we have today. Any closing thoughts, Alex?
No, nothing. Definitely catch us on that Deadpool and Wolverine podcast, though, because I'm looking forward to that discussion. And I think all three of us were really excited about that movie after we saw it, and looking forward to talking about that. I've been kind of tight-lipped, and I was really fortunate that I didn't see very many spoilers for that movie before I went in, and was very excited about doing that. I will say this, I miss that time when spoilers were kind of limited back in the day, back in like the first few phases of Marvel movies, where there were spoilers, but it was just like so much smaller than it is today, because it seems like sometimes we get a movie and we already know almost everything about it.
Well, because now you have the whole culture of the insiders, and they post stuff, or they have their own subscription stuff and they leak stuff, and it's like, you know, even for me, um, you know, collecting the news and stuff, I was seeing some of the, lucky it was after I saw Deadpool Wolverine, but they're like posting this, like, you know how they guess on stuff and they report stuff saying, hey, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. I saw a bunch of them where they're just posting that they got this right, they got this right. And it's like, who cares if you're all right? You know, it's like, it's not a competition here. And, you know, people that follow you, they may not have seen that yet. You're actually posting that stuff in the first few days of the movie. So, RMC makes a good point. Thank you. If you have multiple profiles, follow the page of them all. Thank you. Yes. If we get to over 100, we're back streaming to the page. So we got a couple upticks. And we've been hovering around like 55 to 60, but we got a couple more in the past few days. But if we can get to 100, hopefully by Sunday, maybe, we can stream again back to the page. Anywho, everyone have a good weekend. We will make an event on the group once we confirm with Andy the time and Sunday. That way you guys have a more heads up now that we can't actually schedule to the page right now because of the streaming changes on Facebook. So everyone have a good rest of the weekend, and hopefully we'll talk to you this weekend.
See ya.